Hello guys, welcome to Fiction Quest. So in this video, we will see, what if Naruto awakened power of the Yami Yami no Mi, dark fruit and fell in love with Black Maria. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1. The darkness awakens. The salt-laden breeze carried unfamiliar scents across the rocky promontory where Naruto Uzumaki crouched, oceanic mist clinging to his orange and black jacket. 2 years since the Great Convergence had passed, yet the world remained a chaotic amalgamation of what once were separate realities. Before him stretched a coastline that had never existed in the shinobi world, a harbor bustling with vessels whose designs ranged from simple fishing boats to elaborate ships with figurehead carvings more ornate than any he'd seen in the land of waves. "Still feels wrong," he muttered, azure eyes narrowing as he scanned the port town through a compact telescope. Like someone stitched two paintings together without caring if the colors matched. The Renaissance mission from Konoha had seemed straightforward when Kakashi, now juggling responsibilities as Hokage in a world twice as complicated, had briefed him. Investigate rumors of weapons trafficking in this coastal region where the boundaries between the shinobi territories and these self-proclaimed pirate waters blurred most prominently. Simple enough. What made the assignment less simple was the tension thrumming beneath Naruto's skin, the constant awareness that somewhere beyond the horizon, Sasuke investigated other anomalies from this cosmic merger. Their world had collided with another, populated by bizarre fruits that granted powers, oceans categorized by compass directions rather than country borders, and governments that had never heard of hidden villages until the skies had fractured 2 years ago. Naruto leapt from his perch, chakra cushioning his 40-foot descent to the pebbled beach below. The landscape itself seemed confused, tropical vegetation intermingled with the temperate flora native to Fire Country. Palm trees cast swaying shadows over cedar and pine, while unfamiliar fruits dangled from branches alongside familiar berries. Shadow clone jutsu. With a puff of smoke, 3 identical copies materialized beside him. You know the drill. Standard formation, stay hidden, track any suspicious movements. His clones nodded before darting off in different directions, their movements barely disturbing the morning mist. Naruto adjusted his headband and moved toward the settlement, adopting the casual gait of a traveler rather than the purposeful stride of a shinobi on assignment. The village called itself Port Confluence, a name that had appeared on no maps before the worlds merged. Its architecture reflected its hybrid nature. Traditional wooden structures reminiscent of coastal Fire Country towns stood alongside buildings with distinct curved rooflines and decorative elements from the other world. The marketplace buzzed with mid-morning activity. Fishmongers hawked catches with names Naruto had never heard before, while vendors from both worlds haggled over exchange rates between Ryo and something called berry, the currency discrepancy remained one of many daily frustrations in border regions. Fresh sea king meat, tenderest cuts in the East Blue, bellowed a burly vendor whose muscled arms bore tattoos depicting sea serpents. Beside him, a woman in traditional Land of Fire garb sold familiar medicinal herbs alongside exotic plants that supposedly came from islands with seasons fixed in perpetual summer or winter. Naruto purchased a skewer of grilled meat from a stall, partly to maintain his cover, partly because the spice-laden aroma had triggered a rumble in his stomach. The flavor burst across his tongue, unfamiliar yet delicious, sweeter than beef but with a texture closer to swordfish. First time trying Sea King. The vendor grinned, revealing a gold-capped tooth. You look like you've got the constitution for it. Folks from your side get the shakes from the meat. Something about the concentrated sea chakra, or whatever you ninja types call it. Naruto managed a noncommittal shrug. Just passing through. Heard there might be work for someone who doesn't mind getting their hands dirty. The vendor's expression shifted subtly, eyes darting to the alleyway behind his stall before returning to Naruto. Might be. Depends what kind of dirty you're talking about. Harbor masters always hiring for legitimate work. He emphasized. Legitimate. Just enough to suggest its opposite. But if you're looking for something more profitable, you might try the rusty kunai after sundown. Ask for Maddox. Naruto nodded his thanks and continued through the market, mentally cataloging the interaction. 3 more similar Our conversations with different vendors yielded consistent information. The Rusty Kanai Tavern served as this port's underworld hub, and someone named Maddox coordinated special shipments. A sudden Joe LT of memory interrupted his thoughts. One of his shadow clones had dispelled after spotting something significant. The clone's experiences flooded into Naruto's consciousness, a warehouse near the northern pier. Heavily guarded by men carrying both traditional weapons and what appeared to be firearms, another technology that had become increasingly common since the merger. More notably, the guards moved with the disciplined precision of trained fighters, not common thugs. "Found you," Naruto murmured, altering his course toward the northern harbor district. The air grew heavier with industrial smells as he approached, fish oil, tar, and the metallic tang of ship repairs. Warehouses lined the waterfront, most legitimately storing cargo or housing shipwrights, but the building his clone had identified stood apart. No identifying markers adorned its weathered exterior, yet 4 guards maintained positions around its perimeter, their relaxed postures belying alert eyes that tracked every passerby. Naruto ducked into a narrow alley between fish processing facilities, the overwhelming brine smell providing perfect cover for creating another shadow clone. The clone transformed with a puff of smoke into a weathered dockworker before shambling out toward the main street, while Naruto scaled the building with chakra-enhanced fingertips, moving with the silence his years of training had perfected. From the rooftop, the suspicious warehouse's security measures became more apparent. Beyond the visible guards, Naruto detected the telltale shimmer of what might be a barrier jutsu, or perhaps one of those haki techniques he'd heard some from the other world could employ. Either way, someone had gone to considerable expense to protect whatever lay inside. A commotion from the street below drew his attention. A cart had overturned, spilling crates of fish across the thoroughfare. His disguised clone was helping gather the scattered cargo, creating a perfect distraction as the guards focused on the minor chaos. Naruto seized the opportunity, dropping to a blind spot behind the warehouse and pressing his back against the rough wooden wall. He focused chakra to his palm, preparing a small Rasengan, not to attack, but to bore a discreet observation hole through the wall. The swirling energy had barely formed when a familiar presence brushed against his consciousness. "Kid, wait." Kurama's voice rumbled through his mind. "Something feels wrong here." Naruto paused. The Nine Tails rarely interjected during routine missions. "What is it?" "There's something distorted about the energy in that building. Not chakra, not quite like those devil fruit powers either. Something else." Before Naruto could respond, a shout from inside the warehouse captured his attention. The words were muffled, but the tone conveyed urgency. Abandoning the Rasengan approach, he channeled chakra to his ears to enhance his hearing. "Told you to secure it properly." A deep voice growled, "Th. At container cost us 3 operatives to acquire." "It was secured," protested another voice. "The seals were intact this morning. No one could have." "Well, someone did find it before." A crash interrupted the conversation, followed by alarmed shouts. Naruto tensed, preparing to intervene if necessary, when the rear door of the warehouse burst open. A small, ornate chest tumbled out, its lid springing open as it hit the ground. Inside, nestled in velvet lining, was what appeared to be a spherical fruit with spiral patterns and a deep purple-black coloration that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. Naruto had seen illustrations of these in intelligence briefings. A devil fruit, one of those mysterious objects from the other world that granted powers at the cost of one's ability to swim. This particular specimen emanated an unusual aura that caused the hairs on Naruto's arms to stand on end. "Kid, don't touch that thing, asterisk," Kurama warned, an unusual tension in the fox's mental voice. "I'm not planning to," Naruto whispered back, but his options narrowed rapidly as 2 men burst through the doorway, weapons drawn. The first attacker wielded a curved blade that gleamed with an unnatural blue light. The second carried no visible weapon but moved with the fluid grace of a trained martial artist. Neither wore identifying insignia, but their coordinated attack patterns suggested professional training. "Intruder!" the swordsman shouted, lunging forward with a strike that would have decapitated a civilian. Naruto ducked under the swing, simultaneously forming a Rasengan in his right palm. "I'm just a curious tourist," he quipped, driving the swirling sphere of chakra toward the man's midsection, not with lethal force, but enough to incapacitate. To his surprise, the swordsman twisted at the last second, his blade intercepting the Rasengan. Instead of shattering under the impact, the sword absorbed the chakra, its blue glow intensifying. Chakra-draining technology. Naruto leapt backward, reassessing his opponents. That's new. The unarmed fighter closed the distance with startling speed, his fist connecting with Naruto's forearm as the ninja blocked. The impact carried unexpected weight, driving Naruto back several steps. Not ordinary strength. Something augmented. He's a ninja, the unarmed man called out. Probably Konoha, based on the headband. More guards emerged from the warehouse, forming a semicircle that cut off escape routes. Naruto calculated his options, engaging multiple opponents with unknown abilities while maintaining his cover. Mission parameters wasn't ideal. Well, stealth was never my specialty anyway, he muttered, fingers forming his signature cross sign. Shadow Clone Jutsu. A dozen Narutos materialized, instantly engaging the guards in close combat. The real Naruto used the confusion to assess the situation. Something about this warehouse operation felt more significant than simple smuggling. The security, the chakra-absorbing weapons, the urgency over the escaped devil fruit, this had the hallmarks of an organized operation with substantial resources. In the chaos of the fight, the chest containing the devil fruit was kicked further from the warehouse. Naruto directed two clones to secure it while he dealt with the remaining guards. The swordsman proved particularly troublesome, his blade slicing through Shadow Clone S with ease while continuing to absorb any chakra-based attacks. That sword's going to be a problem, Naruto noted, gathering natural energy as he momentarily stepped back from the fray. The familiar sensation of sage mode washed over him, enhancing his perception and physical abilities. With heightened senses, he detected something unusual, a secondary energy signature emanating from the guards. Layered beneath their normal life force. Something artificial, almost parasitic. Naruto weaved through the attacking guards with sage-enhanced speed, landing precise strikes at the junction of neck and shoulder on two opponents, rendering them unconscious. The unarmed fighter proved more resilient, absorbing a hit that should have incapacitated him. "You hit hard for a pretty boy," the man growled, his skin darkening to a metallic sheen where Naruto's blow had landed. "But I've eaten the steel fruit. Physical attacks just bounce off me." "Good to know," Naruto replied, gathering wind-natured chakra around his fist. The swirling energy formed microscopic blades that extended beyond his knuckles. "Let's see how you handle this." The wind-enhanced strike connected with the man's chest. For a moment, nothing happened. Then fine cracks spread across the metallic surface of his skin before he gasped and crumpled. Naruto turned his attention to the swordsman, who had grown more cautious after witnessing his comrade's defeat. "That sword absorbs chakra, but I'm betting it has a limit." The man smiled thinly. "Why don't you test your theory?" "Gladly." Naruto formed a massive Rasengan, far larger than necessary for a single opponent. The swordsman braced himself, blade held defensively as Naruto charged. At the last instant, Naruto dispelled the Rasengan and dropped into a sweep K. That took the man's legs from under him. As he fell, Naruto struck a precise blow to the pressure point behind his ear, rendering him unconscious before he hit the ground. "Sometimes the old ways work best," Naruto remarked to no one in particular. With immediate threats neutralized, he turned his attention to the fallen chest. His clones had secured the area, but more shouts from inside the warehouse indicated reinforcements would arrive momentarily. The devil fruit lay innocently in its velvet nest, its dark surface seeming to pull in the surrounding light. Naruto had been briefed extens. "Ively on these objects. Consume one and gain a unique power, but lose the ability to swim forever." Most shinobi considered it a poor trade when chakra offered similar versatility without such a dramatic drawback. "We should destroy it," Kurama suggested. "Whatever power it contains, I don't like how it feels." "Agreed, but..." Naruto's response was cut short as an explosion rocked the warehouse. The building's wall blew outward in a shower of splinters and debris, forcing Naruto to shield the chest with his body. Through the smoke emerged a figure unlike the guards, a woman of imposing height, dressed in an elaborate kimono that seemed at odds with the combat situation. Her pale face contrasted sharply with dark lipstick and piercing eyes that fixed immediately on Naruto. The fruit, she stated, her voice melodious despite its commanding tone. Hand it over, shinobi. Naruto rose slowly, keeping the chest behind him. I don't think that's going to happen. Who are you? Names are meaningless in our line of work, she replied, taking a step forward. Her movement carried unusual fluidity, almost predatory in its grace. But if you insist on formalities, you may call me Black Maria. Well, Black Maria, I'm Naruto Uzumaki of Konohagakure, and whatever you're planning with this fruit and those weapons inside, it stops now. A smile curved her painted lips. Such confidence. Let's see if it's warranted. She moved with astonishing speed for someone of her stature, closing the distance before Naruto could form hand signs. Her attack came not as a punch or kick, but from strands of silk that shot from her fingertips, wrapping around his wrists with surprising tensile strength. Naruto's eyes widened in recognition. You're not just named after the spider, you are one. Clever boy, she purred. Additional silk strands emerging to encircle his torso. I ate the spider fruit. Now I'll be taking what belongs to my organization. Naruto channeled chakra through his limbs, attempting to break the silken restraints. The strands stretched but didn't snap. Stronger than they look, he acknowledged, switching tactics. A pulse of Kurama's chakra emanated from his body, caustic energy burning through the silk bonds. Black Maria's expression flickered with surprise as Naruto freed himself, the faint red aura surrounding him now revealing his status as more than an ordinary shinobi. A Jinchuriki, she observed, reassessing her opponent. This complicates matters. You know about Jinchuriki? Naruto asked, genuinely surprised. Few from the other world understood the concept of human vessels for tailed beasts. My organization makes it a priority to understand the power structures of both worlds, she replied, shifting into a combat stance that incorporated elements of both traditional martial arts and something more bestial, including your unique situation, Naruto Uzumaki. The use of his name confirmed this was no random encounter. Whoever Black Maria worked for had intelligence networks extending into the shinobi world, perhaps even into Konoha itself. Further conversation was interrupted as more guards poured from the warehouse, these ones armed with rifles, another technology from the other world that had become increasingly problematic for shinobi to counter. Bullets moved faster than the human eye could track, making them difficult to dodge. Without advance warning or exceptional speed. Time to leave, Naruto muttered, grabbing the chest. A smoke bomb provided momentary cover as he created another batch of shadow clones to confuse pursuit. As he turned to flee, Black Maria's voice cut through the chaos. The darkness will find you, Naruto Uzumaki. It always does. Her cryptic warning lingered in his mind as he escaped along the rooftops. Chest tucked securely under one arm. Only when he had put several districts between himself and the warehouse did he pause to assess the situation. The chest contained a potentially powerful devil fruit that an organized, well-informed group wanted badly enough to station enhanced guards and a devil fruit user of Black Maria's caliber to protect it. Now those same people would be hunting him. We need to get that thing to Kakashi, Kurama advised. Whatever it is, it's not ordinary, even for a devil fruit. Agreed, Naruto replied, finding a secluded rooftop garden to examine his prize more carefully. The fruit rested innocuously in its velvet nest, its surface an unnatural purplish black that seemed to drink in the sunlight. Up close, Naruto could see that what he had initially taken for a spiral pattern was actually more complex, intricate swirls that formed labyrinthine designs across the fruit's skin. Don't touch it directly, Kurama warned. Something about it resonates wrongly with my chakra. Naruto nodded, carefully closing the lid. I'll find somewhere to lay low until nightfall, then make for the rendezvous point. Sasuke should. A whistling sound from above was his only warning. Naruto rolled sideways as a projectile embedded itself in the rooftop where he had been sitting. Not a kunai or shuriken, but a dart of some kind, its shaft quivering from the impact. 3 figures dropped from higher buildings, surrounding him in a triangular formation. Unlike the warehouse guards, these wore distinctive uniforms, black bodysuits with white insignia depicting a spiral bisected by a vertical line. Hand over the YamiYami no Mi, the central figure demanded, voice distorted by a mask covering the lower half of his face. It belongs to the Harbingers. The what now? Naruto replied, buying time as he assessed his options. The rooftop offered limited escape routes, and all three attackers carried the same type of chakra-absorbing weapons he had encountered earlier. Playing dumb won't save you. That fruit is essential to our operations. Surrender it, and you may leave with your life. Naruto considered his options. Taking on 3 more enhanced opponents while protecting the chest would be challenging. Making a break for it risked exposing himself to whatever projectile weapons they carried. The dart still embedded in the rooftop suggested some kind of tranquilizer or poison. How about a third option? He suggested, forming a Rasengan in each hand. I keep the fruit, and you tell me what exactly a harbinger is and why you're so interested in this particular devil fruit. The spokesman signaled his companions, who spread out further to cut off potential escape routes. The fruit's power is beyond your comprehension, Jinchuriki. The Rkness it contains would consume one such as you. Darkness. Kurama's interest peaked. Ask him what he means. Explain, Naruto demanded, maintaining the dual Rasengans as a clear threat. The YamiYami no Mi grants dominion over darkness itself, gravity, absence, nullification. In the wrong hands, it merely bestows power. In the right hands, it opens doorways between worlds. The man's eyes narrowed above his mask. Doorways like the one that brought our worlds together. The implication stunned Naruto momentarily. The cosmic event that had merged their worlds had been widely assumed to be a natural phenomenon or perhaps the unintended consequence of some powerful jutsu. If this man was suggesting it had been deliberate, his momentary distraction proved costly. One of the flanking attackers launched another dart, this one grazing Naruto's neck as he jerked away at the last second. Immediately, a numbing sensation spread from the contact point. Poison, Kurama growled, his chakra surging to combat the foreign substance. Naruto knew he had seconds before the toxin might incapacitate him. With no time for subtlety, he slammed both Rasengans into the rooftop, sending chunks of tile and wood in all directions. The structural damage created momentary confusion. He exploited to leap to an adjacent building, chest clutched tightly under his arm. The pursuers recovered quickly, their movements suggesting enhancement beyond normal human capabilities. One launched himself with such force that the rooftop cracked beneath his feet, intercepting Naruto midair with a flying kick. Naruto twisted to avoid the full impact, but the blow still connected with his shoulder, sending him tumbling across the neighboring rooftop. The chest flew from his grasp, skidding to the edge of the building. Pain lanced through his left arm. The kick had nearly dislocated his shoulder. Worse, the numbing agent from the dart was spreading despite Kurama's efforts to neutralize it. This isn't ordinary poison, the Nine Tails reported. It's targeting your chakra network specifically. I can counteract it, but I need time. Time was a luxury Naruto didn't have. The 3 attackers had landed on the same rooftop and were advancing steadily, with the chest lying vulnerable between them and Naruto. He needed a diversion. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. To his alarm, only 3 clones ared. The poison was already affecting his chakra control. Still, the clones charged forward, buying precious seconds as Naruto formulated a desperate plan. The chest lay just feet away from the roof's edge. Below, the busy street continued its normal afternoon bustle, oblivious to the life or death struggle above. If he could get the chest and make it to the crowd, he might lose his pursuers long enough for Kurama to neutralize the poison. His 3 clones engaged the attackers but dispelled almost immediately against their superior strength. Naruto lunged for the chest, fingers closing around its ornate handle just as one of the masked assailants reached for it. Their hands collided, sending the chest tumbling over the edge. With reflexes honed through years of training, Naruto dove after it, plummeting toward the street below. The chest struck a market awning, bounced, and split open midair. The dark fruit tumbled free, falling directly in Naruto's path as he descended. Time seemed to slow. Naruto could see the fruit rotating as it fell, its spiral patterns almost hypnotic against the void-like background of its skin. He reached out, intending to catch it before it could be lost in the crowd below. Kid, don't. Kurama's warning came too late. As Naruto's fingers closed around the fruit, a sharp jolt ran up his arm. Not pain, but a sensation of profound wrongness, as if he had grabbed hold of a tear in reality itself. The momentum of his dive brought the fruit directly to his face, and in his disoriented state, his mouth opened in surprise. The taste was indescribable, not the expected sweetness or bitterness, but a flavor that seemed to negate all others, a culinary void that pulled at his senses. Before he could process what was happening, he had taken a reflexive bite, then another. Naruto landed in a crouch on the street below, the half-eaten fruit still clutched in his hand. Pedestrians scattered at his sudden appearance, creating a momentary clearing around him. The remaining portion of the fruit seemed to disintegrate, crumbling into nothing as if it had never existed. An intense sensation spread from his core outward, not pain, but a profound restructuring. As if every cell in his body was simultaneously being unmade and reformed. Kurama's alarmed roar echoed through his consciousness as darkness swelled within him, a tangible force that pressed against his insides-seeking expression. "What have you done?" the Nine Tails demanded, his chakra flaring defensively against this new intrusion. Naruto had no answer, his body no longer responding to his commands. He fell to his knees as the street around him seemed to waver, shadows stretching unnaturally toward him like beckoning fingers. The poison's numbness was gone, replaced by an acute awareness of every shadow. Every dark corner, every absence of light within his perception. Above, his pursuers peered down from the rooftop, their body language conveying shock and rage. "He consumed it," one shouted. "Alert the commander immediately." Naruto tried to stand, but his limbs refused to cooperate, responding instead to some new instinct he didn't understand. Darkness gathered around his hands, not merely as an absence of light but as a tangible substance that oozed between his fingers like viscous liquid. "What's happening to me?" he gasped, watching in fascination and horror as RB shadows detached from their sources, flowing toward him as if magnetized. "Your chakra is changing, asterisk," Kurama reported, his mental voice strained. "The fruit's power is integrating with your system, but it's conflicting with my presence." Two fundamental forces opposing each other. A crowd had gathered at a safe distance, whispering among themselves. "Devil fruit," Naruto heard someone murmur. "He ate a devil fruit. Looks like the YamiYami," another voice added. Dark fruit. Bad business," that one. Naruto struggled to his feet, leaning against a market stall for support. The three pursuers had descended to street level and were advancing cautiously, their weapons drawn but held defensively. "Stand down, Uzumaki," the leader called. "You don't understand what you've done or what's happening to your body. We can help you control it." "Stay back," Naruto warned, instinctively raising his hand. To his shock, a pulse of darkness shot from his palm, not as a projectile but as a distortion in space itself. The area before him seemed to compress, gravity intensifying until the street cobblestones cracked under the sudden pressure. The attackers leapt aside, but one was caught in the edge of the effect. His body slamming to the ground as if struck by an invisible anvil. He struggled against the increased gravity, muscles straining visibly before the effect dissipated. Naruto stared at his hand in wonder and terror. "What was that?" "The fruit's power, asterisk," Kurama explained grimly. "Darkness manifested as gravitational force. This is problematic." The momentary distraction cost him as the remaining two attackers charged, apparently deciding that Naruto's lack of control made him vulnerable despite his new power. They moved with coordinated precision, one getting his legs while the other aimed a strike at his throat. Pure instinct drove Naruto's response. He raised both hands, and darkness erupted from his body in a spherical wave. Unlike before, this manifestation didn't increase gravity. Instead, it seemed to negate the attacker's momentum entirely. They froze in mid-lunge, suspended momentarily before dropping to the ground, their enhanced abilities seemingly neutralized. "He can already use nullification," one gasped, struggling to rise. "Impossible for a new user." Naruto didn't wait for them to recover. With the strange new power coursing through him, he turned and fled into the maze of market streets, darkness trailing from his form like an ethereal cloak. The sensation was disorienting. He could feel every shadow he passed, sense the sense of light in closed rooms and beneath carts, perceive the darkness that existed in spaces between spaces. "Head for the forest," asterisk, Kurama advised. "We need isolation to figure out what's happening to you." Naruto nodded, changing course toward the tree line visible beyond the town's northern edge. As he ran, he noticed his speed was different, not necessarily faster, but with a strange gliding quality. As if gravity itself gave way before him. Behind, shouts and whistles indicated pursuit had been organized, but Naruto had already reached the outskirts of Port Confluence. The coastal forest loomed ahead, its dense canopy creating a tapestry of shadows that called to his new senses like a beacon. The moment he passed beneath the first trees, Naruto felt a surge of power. The overlapping shadows of countless leaves and branches resonated with the darkness inside him, amplifying it until his skin seemed to radiate a dark aura visible even in daylight. Find a clearing, Kurama instructed. Somewhere I can work to stabilize this power before it overwhelms your system. Naruto pushed deeper into the forest, eventually discovering a small glade where sunlight filtered through in dappled patterns. The interplay of light and shadow created a balanced environment where neither force dominated. He sank to his knees in the center of the clearing, focusing inward where a battle raged between Kurama's fiery chakra and the cold void of his new power. The two energies circled each other like wary predators, occasionally clashing in bursts that sent pain shooting through Naruto's nerve endings. Can you stabilize it? Naruto asked aloud, his voice strained. I'm trying, Kurama growled. This power, it's fundamentally opposed to my nature. Light versus darkness, creation versus nullification. But there's something else, a resonance I didn't expect. What do you mean? Your Uzumaki lineage. The sealing arts that flow in your blood seem to recognize aspects of this power. Containment, absorption, redirection. These concepts exist in both your bloodline abilities and this YamiYami power. Naruto closed his eyes, focusing on that connection. Indeed, beneath the chaotic clash of energies, he could sense a pattern emerging, his own chakra acting as a mediator between Kurama's fiery nature and the void-like quality of the YamiYami power. I need to harmonize them, he realized. Not fight the darkness, but channel it, like I learned to channel your chakra. It's not that simple, Kurama cautioned. My chakra, while corrosive, is still energy, life force. This darkness is different. It doesn't generate power, it consumes and negates it. Then I'll be its container, not its channel, Naruto decided, shifting into a meditation posture. Like a reverse Jinchuriki. Instead of containing a being of pure energy, I'll contain a force of anti-energy. The concept seemed to resonate with the conflicting powers within him. As Naruto focused on this approach, the chaotic swirling began to slow. Darkness and light finding an uneasy equilibrium as they separated into distinct aspects of his chakra network. Hours passed as Naruto maintained this internal focus, gradually establishing boundaries between his original powers and this new darkness. By the time twilight fell, he had achieved a tentative stability, not mastery, but enough control to prevent he powers from tearing him apart from within. When he finally opened his eyes, the clearing had changed. A perfect circle of dead grass surrounded him, extending exactly 5 feet in all directions, unconscious effect of his power leaking during meditation. Beyond this circle, the forest remained vibrant and alive, undisturbed by his presence. You've managed the first step, Kurama acknowledged. But this is just the beginning. This power will continue to develop, and we don't fully understand its capabilities or limitations. Naruto rose shakily to his feet, examining his hands. They appeared normal until he concentrated, causing darkness to seep from his pores like black smoke. I need to experiment, learn what I can do now. Carefully, Kurama emphasized. Remember, according to those who pursued us, this power may have been instrumental in merging our worlds. Its true potential could be far beyond simple combat applications. Naruto nodded, then tentatively extended his hand toward a nearby tree. Focusing on the concept of gravity, one aspect of darkness he had inadvertently used earlier, he visualized pressure increasing around the tree. The effect was immediate and startling. The space around the tree distorted visibly, air rippling as gravitational force intensified. Bark cracked under the pressure, leaves shredded from branches as they were pulled inward by the localized gravity well. When Naruto released the effect, deep impressions remained in the trunk where the wood had compressed. That's potent, he murmured, both impressed and disturbed by the destructive potential. Next, he recalled the nullification effect he had used against his attackers. Focusing on a different aspect of darkness, the absence of energy rather than gravitational force, he directed his power toward a small sapling. The result was more subtle but equally unsettling. The sapling didn't move or break, but its leaves wilted almost instantly, green vibrancy fading to brown as if weeks of decay had occurred in seconds. When Naruto approached to examine it, he found the plant completely desiccated, life energy seemingly extracted. This aspect is particularly dangerous, Kurama noted. It doesn't just nullify outside forces, it actively drains life energy. Use it sparingly and with extreme caution. Naruto agreed, disturbed by the implications. A third aspect Ned unexplored, the apparent ability to become darkness itself, which he had glimpsed during his escape through town. Drawing a deep breath, he focused on the shadows beneath the trees. Instead of projecting his power outward, he visualized it enveloping him, transforming his physical form into the same substance as the darkness he now controlled. The sensation defied description, his body lost solidity, becoming something between matter and energy, tangible yet fluid. Gravity's hold lessened as his mass fluctuated, allowing him to flow across the ground like living shadow. More startling was the perceptual change. In this semi-corporeal state, Naruto could sense every shadow within a 100-yard radius, perceiving their dimensions and connections as clearly as visible objects. Darkened hollows beneath roots, the undersides of leaves, even the minute shadows cast by individual blades of grass, all became part of an interconnected network he could potentially navigate. Reverting to solid form required conscious effort, his molecules seeming reluctant to resume their normal arrangement. When he finally managed it, cold sweat beaded his forehead from the strain. This is going to take serious practice, he admitted, leaning against a tree for support. And careful study, Kurama added. The world government from the other reality classifies devil fruits by type. From what I can gather from your memories of intelligence briefings, this would be a Logia type, the rarest and potentially most powerful category, allowing transformation into a natural element. Darkness isn't an element, Naruto pointed out. In their classification system, it qualifies. The important distinction is that you can become your element, not merely control it. Naruto absorbed this information, considering the implications. The ability to transform into darkness itself offered defensive advantages beyond anything in his existing arsenal, while the gravitational and nullification aspects provided offensive capabilities that could counter almost any opponent. Yet the power felt fundamentally different from his chakra-based abilities, where ninjutsu required precise control and specific hand signs. These darkness abilities seemed to operate on intent and visualization, drawing power not from his internal energy reserves but from the concept of darkness itself. I need to report this to Kakashi, Naruto decided. This changes the parameters of my mission significantly. Agreed, but proceed with caution, Kurama advised. Those harbingers will be hunting you with increased determination now that you possess the fruit's power. And that woman, Black Maria, she knew too much about you for coincidence. There are larger forces at work here. As if summoned by the thought, Naruto's enhanced senses detected a presence at the edge of the clearing, a tall silhouette partially concealed behind a broad tree trunk. Without hesitation, he gathered darkness around his hand, prepared to unleash a gravitational pulse. I know you're there, he called out. Show yourself. The figure stepped forward, moonlight illuminating familiar features, the elaborate kimono, the pale face with dark lipstick. The calculating eyes that had assessed him earlier that day. Black Maria entered the clearing with measured steps, her hands visible and empty in a gesture of temporary non-aggression. Impressive adaptation, she remarked. Gaze fixed on the darkness swirling around Naruto's fist. Most who consume a devil fruit take days to manifest even basic control. You've achieved rudimentary mastery in hours. Naruto didn't lower his hand. You followed me, tracked you, she corrected. Different skill set. The harbingers are also following, but less successfully. They lack my specialized abilities. And what abilities would those be? Besides the spider transformation, a small smile played across her painted lips. Patience, observation, an understanding of when potential allies are more valuable than confirmed enemies. Naruto scoffed. We fought less than 8 hours ago. Now you want an alliance. Circumstances change. Her gaze dropped meaningfully to his darkness-wreathed hand. You've consumed the YamiYami no Mi, altering the equation significantly. The harbingers will stop at nothing to capture you now, and my employers are reassessing priorities. Your employers? Naruto repeated. Who would they be? That's a conversation for safer surroundings. Black Maria glanced toward the forest's edge. The harbingers have deployed sensor types who can track devil fruit energy signatures. We have perhaps 10 minutes before they pinpoint this location. Naruto weighed his options. Black Maria was clearly dangerous, potentially as much a threat as the harbingers themselves. Yet she possessed knowledge about his new powers and the organization hunting him, information critical to understanding the larger picture. She's hiding something, Kurama noted. But her warning about the harbingers rings true. I can sense multiple chakra signatures converging on this position. Decision made. Naruto extinguished the darkness around his hand but maintained a combat-ready stance. 10 minutes. That's how long you have to convince me you're worth trusting, even temporarily. Black Maria inclined her head in acknowledgement. The YamiYami no Mi grants 3 primary abilities: gravitational manipulation, power nullification, and transformation into darkness itself. Each aspect has practical applications and limitations you must understand quickly if you hope to survive what comes next. Her direct approach surprised Naruto. Go on. The gravitational aspect is most immediately useful in combat. By creating localized zones of intense gravity, you can immobilize opponents or crush objects. With practice, you'll learn to create targeted fields that affect specific areas while leaving others untouched. I discovered that one by accident, Naruto admitted. The nullification aspect is more complex. It doesn't simply negate other powers, it temporarily removes the ability to access them entirely. Against devil fruit users, this means neutralizing their abilities upon physical contact. Against shinobi, it can disrupt chakra pathways, preventing jutsu formation. This revelation gave Naruto pause. Such an ability would make him uniquely effective against both shinobi and devil fruit users, a tactical advantage in this merged world where both power systems now coexisted. And the transformation, the most difficult to master, but potentially the most powerful. Becoming darkness allows you to avoid physical attacks, move through solid objects, and transport yourself through connected shadows. However, while transformed, you remain vulnerable to certain types of energy, particularly light-based attacks and, ironically, powerful haki or chakra infused with specific intents. Naruto absorbed this information, mentally cataloging the applications and limitations she described. Why are you telling me this? What's your angle? Black Maria's expression remained carefully neutral. The harbingers seek to destabilize the already fragile balance between our merged worlds. They believe complete integration is the path forward: one world, one government, one power system. Those who oppose this view are eliminated. And your employers disagree. They believe equilibrium is preferable to forced unification. The unique properties of both worlds should be preserved while allowing natural points of integration to develop. Evolution, not revolution. It sounded reasonable, perhaps too reasonable. That doesn't explain why you attacked me at the warehouse. I was securing the YamiYami no Mi, not specifically targeting you. The fruit is significant beyond its obvious powers. The harbingers required it for the next phase of their plan. Which is? Black Maria's eyes narrowed slightly. Our time grows short. They've adapted to Traken. Your specific energy signature now that you've consumed the fruit. We need to move. As if to emphasize her point, a distant crashing sound echoed through the forest, heavy bodies moving with little concern for stealth. Naruto made his decision. Lead the way, but know this, at the first sign of betrayal, I won't hesitate to test these new powers on you. Understood. Black Maria turned, moving with surprising grace for her height. There's a cave system 2 miles north that can mask your energy signature temporarily. We can continue our discussion there. As they moved through the darkened forest, Naruto found his new senses providing unprecedented awareness of their surroundings. Every shadow registered in his perception, creating a 3-dimensional map more detailed than vision alone could provide. The woman who fell through darkness rises through shadow, Black Maria murmured as they ran, the cryptic statement seemingly directed at herself rather than Naruto. "What does that mean?" he asked, easily keeping pace despite his earlier exhaustion. "A prophecy, some believe. Others call it merely poetry. Either way, it speaks to the nature of your new power. Darkness consumes, but it also preserves what it takes." Before Naruto could press for clarification, a barrage of projectiles whistled through the trees toward them. With reflexes honed through years of combat, he dodged sideways, pulling Black Maria with him as explosive tags detonated against nearby trunks. "They've found us," she stated unnecessarily, silk strands already forming between her fingers as she prepared for combat. "How many?" Naruto asked, darkness gathering around his hands instinctively. "At least 8. Elite Harbinger operatives, not common foot soldiers. They'll have countermeasures for both shinobi techniques and devil fruit abilities." Naruto assessed their options. Fighting 8 elite opponents while still adapting to his new powers wasn't ideal, especially with an ally of questionable loyalty. "The cave you mentioned, how much farther?" "Half a mile, but we won't reach it before they intercept us." Decision made. Naruto formed a familiar cross sign. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Tenpei. RFECT duplicates materialized around them, each wreathed in the same darkness aura as the original. "Split up," he commanded. "Create confusion, buy us time." As the clones scattered in different directions, Naruto grabbed Black Maria's arm. "I'm going to try something. Don't resist." Before she could respond, he concentrated on the darkness aspect of his new power, visualizing it enveloping not just himself but his companion as well. The transformation came easier this time, darkness flowing over both their forms like liquid shadow. Black Maria tensed momentarily, then relaxed as understanding dawned. Impressive adaptation. In their shadow forms, they moved with supernatural speed, flowing across the forest floor like oil over water. Naruto found he could perceive the harbingers, positions through their own shadows, allowing him to navigate around their search pattern. When they finally reached the cave entrance, a narrow fissure in a limestone outcropping, Naruto released the transformation, both of them resolidifying in the shelter of the stone overhang. "That was unexpected," Black Maria observed, smoothing her kimono with studied composure that didn't quite mask her surprise. "Few devil fruit users can extend their transformative abilities to others." "I'm not exactly a typical case," Naruto replied, scanning their backtrail for pursuers. "The cave." Black Maria nodded, ducking to enter the narrow opening. "Follow closely. The passages are complex." The limestone cave branched repeatedly, creating a natural labyrinth illuminated only by the occasional bioluminescent fungus clinging to damp walls. To Naruto's enhanced senses, however, the darkness was no impediment. Each shadow, each absence of light, registered clearly in his perception. After several minutes of navigation through increasingly narrow passages, they emerged into a large chamber where an underground stream had carved out a substantial cavity. Here, Black Maria finally stopped, turning to face Naruto with an evaluative gaze. "We should be safe temporarily," she stated. "The water flowing through these caves disrupts energy detection techniques. A fortunate quirk of this merged world's physics." Naruto maintained a cautious distance. "You promised explanations. Start with who these harbingers really are, and what they want with the YamiYami no Mi." Black Maria considered him for a moment before responding. The harbingers formed in the immediate aftermath of the world merger, drawing members from both realities who saw opportunity in chaos. Their leadership consists of individuals who possess hybrid abilities, techniques that shouldn't be possible under either world's natural laws. Like the guards at the warehouse, Naruto recalled. One had a chakra-absorbing sword, another claw. I am to have eaten a steel fruit but moved like a trained shinobi. Precisely. The harbingers have developed methods to create these hybrids, painful, often fatal procedures that few survive. Those who do become fanatically loyal, either through conditioning or genuine belief in their cause, which is complete integration of both worlds under a single governing philosophy. They believe the merger was not accident but destiny, two incomplete realities becoming whole. Their ultimate goal is to accelerate and finalize this process. Naruto frowned. And the YamiYami no Mi fits into this how? The fruit's previous owner in the other world, a pirate named Marshall D. Teach, or Blackbeard, discovered applications beyond its obvious combat potential. He found that darkness, as the absence of everything, can create bridges between spaces that should be separate, doors where walls should exist. The implication dawned on Naruto slowly. They believe this fruit created the merger between worlds. Not created, Black Maria corrected, facilitated. The initial event required other factors, but the YamiYami no Mi's power was the key that unlocked the door. Now, with you having consumed it, that power resides in you. The responsibility of this revelation settled heavily on Naruto's shoulders. If what she said was true, he now possessed an ability that could potentially affect the fabric of reality itself. "And your employers?" he asked. "Who are they, and what do they want with me now?" Black Maria's painted lips curved in a small smile. "My employer believes balance must be maintained. The worlds have merged, but complete homogenization would destroy what makes each unique and valuable. We seek to preserve distinction within unity. That's a philosophy, not an identity," Naruto pointed out. "Names have power in this new reality," she replied cryptically. "But if you require one, we call ourselves the Equilibrium Collective. Unlike the Harbingers, we draw members primarily from those who understood power before the merger: shinobi, marines, pirates with specific abilities or knowledge." "And you?" Naruto pressed. "Where do you fit in all this?" Something flickered in Black Maria's eyes, a momentary vulnerability quickly masked. "I serve as an operative with certain, specialized skills. My devil fruit abilities make me effective for infiltration and intelligence gathering." "You were undercover with the Harbingers," Naruto realized. "For nearly a year. My cover is now compromised, thanks to today's events, but the intelligence gathered was worth the sacrifice." Their conversation was interrupted by a subtle vibration, not an earthquake, but a rhythmic pattern that suggested large bodies moving through the cave system. Black Maria tensed, silk strands materializing between her fingers. "They've found us faster than anticipated," she murmured. "They must have a tracker specialized in devil fruit energy signatures." Naruto rose to his feet, darkness already gathering around his hands. "How many entrances to this chamber?" "3, she replied, indicating passages at opposite ends of the cavern. "But in these confined spaces, your new powers may be as dangerous to us as to them. The gravity effect could bring down the entire cave system." She was right. Untested abilities in an unstable environment could prove catastrophically counterproductive. Naruto needed a different approach. "Then we'll use conventional tactics," he decided, creating 4 shadow clones that immediately took up defensive positions near each entrance. "Can your silk create traps?" Black Maria nodded, already moving toward the narrowest passage. "Tripwires, snares, adhesive barriers, all possible. Set them up. Buy us time." Naruto focused on the main entrance, where the vibrations grew strongest. "I'll handle our welcoming committee." As Black Maria worked quickly to secure the secondary passages, Naruto considered his options. The confined space limited his usual high-mobility fighting style, but it also created opportunities for more targeted applications of his new abilities. The first Harbinger operative appeared at the main entrance, a broad-shouldered figure in the now familiar black uniform with white insignia. Unlike the previous attackers, this one carried no visible weapons, suggesting either hand-to-hand specialization or concealed armaments. "Uzumaki," the man called, voice echoing in the chamber. "Surrender now, and the Harbingers will show mercy. Resist, and we'll take the YamiYami no Mi's power from your corpse." "Charming recruitment pitch," Naruto replied, subtly gathering natural energy to enter Sage mode. "But I think I'll pass." 4 more operatives filed in behind the spokesman, each with distinct gear suggesting specialized combat roles. One carried what appeared to be a modified sniper rifle, another wore gauntlets etched with sealing formulas, the third had multiple blades strapped across his torso, and the fourth remained hooded, face concealed entirely. "The Spider Woman dies," the leader stated flatly. "Her betrayal cannot be forgiven. You, however, are valuable, with or without your cooperation." Naruto glanced toward Black Maria, who had finished setting her traps and now stood ready for combat, expression betraying nothing of her thoughts. "Sorry, but she's with me now." "Package deal." The leader sighed theatrically. "As expected. Prepare him for transport. Kill the woman." The operatives moved with coordinated precision, each targeting their designated objective. The sniper immediately sought higher ground on a rock outcropping, while the blade specialist and gauntlet user converged on Black Maria. The hooded figure and leader focused on Naruto. Naruto's shadow clones intercepted the two, heading for Black Maria, buying her critical seconds to counterattack. She utilized the confined space masterfully, silk strands shooting upward to create an overhead network from which she could maneuver with spider-like agility. The hooded harbinger reached Naruto first, moving with unnatural speed. As they closed to striking distance, the operative's hood fell back, revealing a face that caused Naruto to falter momentarily, features so similar to his own that they might have been related, yet with cold eyes that held no recognition. What the? The doppelganger attacked without hesitation, fighting style mimicking Naruto's own preferred sequences with disturbing accuracy. Each strike came precisely where Naruto would have targeted, each defense anticipated his counter as if reading his intentions. Some kind of mimic ability, Kurama observed, not transformation, but combat replication. The insight helped Naruto adjust his approach. If this opponent could copy his fighting style, then conventional tactics would remain deadlocked. He needed to introduce variables the doppelganger couldn't anticipate. Drawing on his newly acquired darkness power, Naruto allowed shadows to gather around his fists, not fully activating any specific ability, but creating an aura of unpredictability. The doppelganger hesitated fractionally, sensing the change without understanding its implications. That momentary hesitation was enough. Naruto feinted with a standard right cross, then instead of following with his usual left hook, he released a short-range gravity pulse that caught the doppelganger off guard. The localized increase in gravitational force drove his opponent to one knee, creating an opening for a decisive strike to the temple that rendered them unconscious. No time to celebrate small victory. The harbinger leader was already engaging, this one wielding what appeared to be a hybrid weapon, a staff inscribed with sealing formulas that periodically discharged electrical energy. The darkness suits you, Uzumaki, the leader remarked, twirling his staff with expert precision. A shame you aligned yourself with traitors before understanding its true potential. Naruto deflected a strike, the electrical discharge earthing harmlessly through his darkness-wreathed arm. Funny, I was thinking the same about you. What's your stake in all this? What do the harbingers really want? Unity, purpose, the end of artificial divisions between people with the same fundamental needs and desires. The leader attacked again, each strike precisely calculated. Your shinobi villages, he world government, all arbitrary power structures that separate rather than unite. Pretty words to justify seizing control, Naruto countered, looking for an opening in his opponent's defense. If you believed that, you'd be persuading, not attacking. A flash of irritation crossed the leader's face. Some must be shown the way forcefully before they can appreciate its value. Your stubbornness blinds you to the greater good. The exchange continued, neither gaining decisive advantage. Around them, the cavern had become a chaotic battlefield. Black Maria engaged with the blade specialist in an aerial dance above, while Naruto's shadow clones fought defensively against the remaining operatives. A sharp crack drew Naruto's attention momentarily. The sniper had found position and was taking aim at Black Maria's exposed back. Without conscious thought, Naruto extended his hand, darkness shooting forth not as a gravitational pulse but as a void-like projectile that intercepted the bullet mid-flight, absorbing it completely. The unexpected defensive move surprised both Naruto and the sniper, creating a momentary opening that the harbinger leader exploited. His staff connected solidly with Naruto's ribcage, electrical energy discharging in a painful surge that disrupted his chakra flow temporarily. Naruto stumbled backward, darkness flickering around his form as he struggled to maintain control. The leader pressed his advantage, staff whirling in an elaborate pattern designed to keep Naruto defensive. Your potential is wasted, the leader stated, each word punctuated by a precise strike. The YamiYami no Mi requires purpose, direction. Without proper guidance, it will consume you from within. He's trying to destabilize your control, Kurama warned. Don't let his words affect your focus. Naruto knew the Nine Tails was right, but the leader's attacks were systematically testing the boundaries of his new abilities, probing for weaknesses with the methodical precision of a trained strategist. A cry from above drew both their attentions. Black Maria had been driven to the chamber wall, silk resources apparently exhausted as the blade specialist closed for a killing blow. Without hesitation, Naruto disengaged from his own battle, darkness flowing around him as he instinctively activated the transformation aspect of his power. In shadow form, he traversed the distance in an instant, reforming between Black Maria and her attacker with darkness coalescing around his outstretched hand. The blade specialist had no time to adjust, his momentum carrying him directly into Naruto's grip. The moment of contact triggered the nullification aspect of the YamiYami no Mi. The operative's enhanced abilities visibly failed, his body returning to ordinary human limitatio. NS as the hybrid enhancements that had made him dangerous were temporarily negated. Naruto didn't waste the advantage, delivering a precise strike that rendered the man unconscious. "You okay?" he asked Black Maria, not taking his eyes off the remaining threats. "Managing," she replied, a new respect evident in her tone. "Your control is improving remarkably fast." The Harbinger leader assessed the shifting battle dynamics. Two of his operatives now neutralized with a third pinned down by Naruto's remaining shadow clones. "This changes nothing," he called. "The Harbingers are everywhere. This is merely one skirmish in a larger war. A war you're currently losing," Naruto pointed out, darkness gathering around both hands as he prepared for the next exchange. Instead of attacking, the lead R reached into his uniform and withdrew a small spherical object. "Consider this a tactical repositioning, not a retreat. We'll meet again, Uzumaki, when you better understand what you've become." Before Naruto could react, the leader slammed the sphere against the ground. Rather than an explosion, it released a blinding flash of light accompanied by a high-pitched tone that seemed to resonate with the cave walls themselves. Naruto's darkness powers recoiled from the intense light, temporarily disrupting his control. By the time his vision cleared, the remaining Harbingers had disappeared, including the unconscious ones. Somehow evacuated during the momentary disorientation. "They're gone," Black Maria confirmed, descending from her elevated position with remarkable grace for someone of her stature. "That was a dimensional shifter, short-range teleportation technology they've been developing. It seems they've perfected it." Naruto released his remaining shadow clones, wincing slightly as their experiences integrated with his consciousness. "They'll be back, undoubtedly, and in greater numbers." Black Maria brushed cave dust from her elaborate kimono with practiced dignity. "We should move quickly. This location is compromised." As the adrenaline of combat faded, Naruto felt the full weight of the day's events pressing upon him. In less than 24 hours, he had discovered a powerful organization operating across both merged worlds, consumed a legendary devil fruit that granted him mastery over darkness itself, and allied with a woman whose true allegiances remained murky at best. "Where do we go from here?" he asked, the question encompassing far more than their immediate tactical situation. Black Maria's painted lips curved in a small smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "To meet my employer, someone who has been watching you with great interest, Naruto Uzumaki. Someone who understands what the YamiYami no Mi truly means in this new world we all share." "And who would that be?" "Patience," she replied, moving toward one of the secondary passages. "Some revelations are best delivered in person. For now, we must focus on reaching safer ground before the Harbingers regroup." As they made their way deeper into the cave system, Naruto contemplated the darkness that now resided within him, power that felt both foreign and strangely familiar, as if it had always been there waiting to be awakened. Whatever came next, he sensed that his path had irrevocably changed, branching away from the future he had once envisioned for himself. The darkness had found him, just as Black Maria had predicted. Now he would need to master it before it mastered him. Chapter 1 End **# Chapter 2 Shadows and Alliances 1 month after consuming the YamiYami no Mi, Naruto stood at the center of a moonlit clearing, darkness flowing around his body like living ink. The forest surrounding this hidden training ground bore visible scars from his practice, trees twisted by gravitational distortion, patches of earth desiccated by nullification effects, and shadows that seemed darker and more substantial than natural phenomena should allow. "Again," commanded Kasumi Rakurai, her voice crisp with the authority of a former Kumogakure Jonin. Tall and lithe, with close-cropped silver hair that caught the moonlight, she circled Naruto with calculating eyes. "Maintain the GR, Gravitational field while transforming only your right arm. Precision control, not raw power. Sweat beaded on Naruto's forehead as he concentrated on the seemingly contradictory tasks. A 10-foot circle of intensified gravity surrounded him, pressing the grass flat and causing small stones to crack under the pressure. Simultaneously, he focused on transforming just his right arm into darkness with letting the transformation spread further. The YamiYami no Mi grants overwhelming power, Kasumi continued, her lightning country accent becoming more pronounced as she lectured. But without precise control, you're as dangerous to allies as enemies. Blackbeard relied on brute force because he lacked discipline. You must exceed him. From her perch on a nearby boulder, Black Maria observed the training with enigmatic attention. Unlike Kasumi's utilitarian attire, fitted black combat gear with lightning country insignia removed, Maria maintained her elaborate kimono even in these remote surroundings. Though she had modified it for greater mobility. His progress is remarkable, Maria noted, voice carrying the melodic quality that contrasted with her imposing stature. Most devil fruit require years to achieve this level of control. Kasumi snorted inelegantly. Most devil fruit users aren't Jinchuriki with Uzumaki lineage. His chakra control provides a foundation most pirates never develop. The gravitational field around Naruto fluctuated as his concentration wavered. His right arm had successfully transformed, particles of darkness swirling where flesh should be, but maintaining both abilities simultaneously taxed his endurance. The darkness still fights me, Kurama's voice echoed in Naruto's mind. Its nature opposes my chakra. We've reached an accommodation, not harmony. I know, Naruto acknowledged silently. It's like trying to channel water and fire simultaneously. With a final surge of effort, he stabilized both effects, holding them for a count of 10. Before releasing the powers with a controlled exhale, darkness retracted into his body as the gravitational field dissipated, leaving him momentarily lightheaded from the exertion. Better, Kasumi acknowledged with characteristic restraint. Your recovery time has improved by 12 seconds compared to yesterday's session. Coming from the former Lightning Country operative, this qualified as effusive praise. Naruto had quickly learned that Kasumi's analytical mind quantified everything. Progress measured in seconds shaved, energy efficiency calculated to decimal points, risk factors assigned numerical values. Her approach to training contrasted sharply with the intuitive methods he'd grown accustomed to, yet its effectiveness was undeniable. The nullification aspect remains your least controlled ability, Black Maria observed, descending from her perch with fluid grace that belied her size. Understandable, as it most directly conflicts with your natural talents. You generate extraordinary power. Nullification requires you to negate it. Naruto nodded, accepting a canteen of water from Kasumi. It feels unnatural, like trying to breathe underwater. Yet mastering it provides your greatest advantage against both devil fruit users and shinobi, Kasumi pointed out, already making notations in the small leather journal where she tracked his progress. No other ability in a Thayer world can completely negate both chakra and devil fruit powers upon physical contact. The significance of this advantage had become increasingly apparent during their month of seclusion. The Binger's influence had spread throughout the border regions where the ninja and pirate worlds overlapped most significantly. Reports indicated they had developed methods to grant individuals hybrid abilities, chakra techniques that enhanced devil fruit powers, or vice versa, creating operatives with unprecedented capabilities. We should practice against live opponents tomorrow, Naruto suggested, rolling his shoulders to release tension. Shadow clones and training dummies only help so much. Unadvisable, Kasumi replied without looking up from her journal. Your nullification effect isn't sufficiently controlled for safe practice against allies. The risk of permanently damaging someone's chakra network or devil fruit connection remains too high. Black Maria's painted lips curved in a subtle smile. Perhaps there's a middle path. My silk constructs possess enough autonomy to serve as semi-independent opponents without risking permanent harm if nullified. Before Kasumi could object, a soft chime emanated from the communication device at her waist, a hybrid technology combining shinobi chakra transmission principles with transponder snail components from the pirate world. Such innovations had proliferated in the 2 years since the worlds merged, as necessity drove both civilizations to adapt and combine their knowledge. Incoming transmission from headquarters, she announced. Withdrawing to the edge of the clearing for privacy, Naruto used the opportunity to approach Black Maria, who had become an increasingly complex figure in his estimation. During their month together, she had proven herself a valuable ally. Her knowledge of devil fruit abilities provided insights no shinobi could offer, while her intelligence on Harbinger operations had helped them avoid detection. They relocated to this remote training site in the mountains between Lightning and Fire Country. Yet she remained deliberately opaque about certain subjects, particularly her employer and the exact nature of the Equilibrium Collective she claimed to represent. Each promised revelation seemed to yield only partial truths, raising more questions than answers. "You've been watching me especially closely today," Naruto noted, keeping his voice casual. "Something on your mind?" Maria's dark eyes assessed him with the calculating attention he'd come to recognize as her default state. "You're developing faster than anticipated. It raises questions about compatibility factors we hadn't considered." Meaning, the YamiYami no Mi has historically responded to users with particular personality traits. Ambition, ruthlessness, willingness to absorb and contain others' powers. Her gaze intensified. "Your natural inclination runs counter to these traits, yet the fruit responds to you more readily than to teach." Naruto considered this, darkness briefly manifesting around his fingertips before he consciously suppressed it. The power responded to emotional states, surfacing during moments of stress or concentration without conscious summoning. "Maybe that's the difference," he suggested. Blackbeard sought power to take. "I'm trying to understand this power to protect." Something flick read in Maria's expression, a momentary softening quickly concealed behind her usual composed facade. Before she could respond, Kasumi returned, her typically impassive features tight with controlled tension. "Headquarters has received intelligence on Harbinger movements," she announced. "They're mobilizing significant resources toward Typhoon Harbor, the port town that emerged at the convergence point between Water Country and the Grand Line. Our team has 12 hours to infiltrate before their operation commences." "What kind of operation?" Naruto asked, already mentally cataloging the equipment they'd need. "Unknown specifics, but intelligence suggests involvement of high-value Harbinger leadership." Kasumi's eyes shifted to Black Maria. "Including your former commander, Vice Admiral Kanton." Maria's posture stiffened imperceptibly. "Kanton is present personally. That indicates an operation of strategic importance. He rarely leaves headquarters unless something critical is at stake." "Who's Kanton?" Naruto inquired, noting the tension that had entered Maria's voice at the name. "Former Vice Admiral of the Marines before the merger," she explained, something guarded entering her expression. "Brilliant tactician with expertise in both conventional warfare and devil fruit research. After the worlds converged, he was among the first to advocate for complete integration under unified leadership. And became one of the Harbingers, founding members," Kasumi added, already packing her specialized equipment with methodical efficiency. "He's responsible for their hybrid enhancement procedures, the processes that allow individuals to utilize both chakra and devil fruit abilities simultaneously." Naruto absorbed this information, sensing undercurrents in Maria's carefully neutral description. "You worked closely with him during your undercover assignment." It wasn't a question, but Maria nodded regardless. "He recruited me personally, believing my abilities ideal for their intelligence division. The association provided exceptional access to Harbinger operations. An exceptional risk," Kasumi noted, her tone carrying subtle accusation. "Kanton is renowned for his perceptiveness. Maintaining cover with him requires significant commitment." The implications hung in the air, creating a moment of tension Naruto chose not to pursue. Whatever Maria had done to maintain her cover was her business. The present alliance mattered more than past actions. "Typhoon Harbor is 3 hours away at top speed," he observed, refocusing on the mission. "Do we have local contacts?" "Limited," Kasumi replied. "The harbor emerged after the merger, a completely new geographical feature where previously separate coastlines fused. It's become a hub for those who embrace the integration of both worlds, making it ideal territory for Harbinger recruitment. It also makes conventional infiltration challenging," Maria added. "The population consists primarily of individuals who've adapted to the merger. Developing hybrid cultural identities. Outsiders are readily identified. Naruto considered this, a smile slowly forming. Then we don't infiltrate conventionally. We use the darkness. Both women turned to him with questioning expressions. I've been practicing a technique, he explained, darkness beginning to gather around his hand. The YamiYami no Mi doesn't just let me transform myself into darkness, it lets me transport others through connected shadows. We can bypass external security entirely. Kasumi's eyes narrowed. You haven't demonstrated this capability in training. Because it wasn't stable enough to risk with passengers, Naruto admitted. But I've been working on it during night meditations. The principle is sound. Darkness is connected across space. All shadows are aspects of the same fundamental absence. Black Maria studied him with renewed interest. Cheech never developed this application, though theories suggested it might be possible. The ability to transport multiple individuals through shadow networks would provide unprecedented infiltration capacity. It's still experimental, Naruto cautioned. I can guarantee arrival within a general area, but not precise coordinates. And there's a distance limitation of approximately 1 mile between connected shadow points. Meaning multiple jumps for longer distances, Kasumi calculated, already adapting their approach. Higher risk, but significantly reduced travel time and detection probability. The tactical advantages outweigh the uncertainties. Decision made, they prepared for immediate departure. As Naruto gathered his specialized equipment, including modified kunai designed to absorb rather than reflect light, he felt Kurama stirring within his consciousness. This shadow transportation technique strains our already tenuous balance, the Nine Tails cautioned. Each use pulls you deeper into the darkness aspect of your new powers. I know the risks, Naruto acknowledged silently. But we need every advantage against the Harbingers. Their operations are expanding too quickly to rely on conventional approaches. The Fox's concern remained palpable, but he offered no further objection. Their shared journey had evolved beyond simple tenant and host. They were partners navigating this strange new power together, each providing balance the other lacked. Within 30 minutes, the team had completed preparations and moved to their departure point, a natural cave whose entrance framed a perfect rectangle of deepest shadow. Naruto stood before it, darkness already flowing around his hands as he prepared to attempt his most ambitious application of the YamiYami no Mi's power yet. The process will feel disorienting, he warned his companions. Like falling without impact, maintain physical contact with me throughout transition, and whatever happens, don't resist the darkness. Kasumi nodded tersely, securing her equipment with final checks before taking position at his left side. Black Maria moved with more measured grace to his right, her expression betraying nothing of whatever reservations she might harbor. On my mark, Naruto instructed, darkness spreading from his hands to envelop his arms. 3, 2, 1. He plunged forward into the cave's shadow, pulling his companions with him. The transition felt like diving into liquid night, a momentary resistance followed by encompassing void. Conventional senses became meaningless as their physical forms dissolved into the same substance as the darkness itself. Naruto had experienced this transformation before, but never while guiding others. He perceived Kasumi and Maria as distinct patterns within the darkness, Kasumi's presence crackling with contained electrical energy, Maria's signature interwove with silken strands that extended in asymmetrical patterns. His own awareness expanded through the shadow network, perceiving distant connections like stars in a midnight sky. He oriented toward their destination, focusing on geographical markers rather than visual references. Darkness responded to intent more than concrete directions, flowing along paths of least resistance between connected shadow points. After what felt like both an instant and an eternity, Naruto guided their merged forms toward a promising nexus, a concentration of shadows that suggested an urban environment with multiple overlapping structures. As they approached re-emergence, he felt resistance from both companions, instinctive human panic at existing in such an unnatural state. Don't fight it, he projected, unsure if they could understand him in this form. Let the darkness carry you through. Whether they received his message or mastered their instincts independently, the resistance faded. With a sensation like surfacing from deep water, they materialized in a narrow alleyway between weathered wooden buildings. The transition from shadow to physical form left all three momentarily disoriented. Huff Naruto recovered first through familiarity with the process. Status? He inquired, supporting himself against a wall as his senses readjusted. Kasumi straightened immediately, professionalism overriding discomfort. Functional. The experience was educational. Black Maria required several more seconds before responding, her composed facade showing rare cracks. That was unlike any devil fruit ability I've encountered, she admitted, voice slightly hoarse. We existed as darkness itself. That's the fundamental nature of Logia types, Naruto explained. Not just controlling an element, but becoming it. The YamiYami no Mi goes further. Darkness exists everywhere, creating connections between physically separate locations. Fascinating theoretical implications, Kasumi noted dryly, but tactically significant. We've bypassed hours of conventional travel and any perimeter security measures. Naruto nodded, already assessing their surroundings. The alley opened onto a busy street, illuminated by a combination of traditional paper lanterns and more modern electric lighting, another visual reminder of the merged worlds. Typhoon Harbor's architecture reflected its hybrid nature. Traditional water country design elements intermingled with the distinctive rounded structures common to Grand Line settlements. We need information before proceeding further, Kasumi stated, withdrawing a compact device from her equipment pouch. Local intelligence suggests a marine outpost has been repurposed as a harbinger facility near the harbor's eastern district. Confirming its status takes priority. Agreed. But direct reconnaissance carries excessive exposure risk, Maria countered. My contacts indicated heightened security protocols whenever Kantan oversees operations personally. Naruto considered their options, darkness momentarily flickering around his fingertips as his new powers responded to his focused concentration. We split up, he decided. Kasumi monitors communications from a secure position. Maria cultivates local intelligence through her established networks. I'll handle direct reconnaissance using shadow transformation to minimize detection risk. Kasumi frowned slightly. Operating independently reduces our tactical response options if compromised. But triples our intelligence gathering capacity, Maria pointed out. Time constraints necessitate parallel operations. After establishing communication protocols and designating a rendezvous point, the team separated. Naruto moved deeper into the harbor district, adopting the casual demeanor of a traveler rather than the purposeful stride of a shinobi on assignment. His senses, already heightened by years of training and Kurama's influence, had gained new dimensions since acquiring the YamiYami no Mi. He perceived shadows not merely as visual phenomena but as tangible connections, each one a potential pathway or hiding place. The harbor itself presented a stark illustration of the world's merger. Traditional fishing vessels from water country bobbed alongside sleek ships bearing Grand Line construction markers. Dock workers from both worlds labored together, their different clothing styles and physical characteristics creating a visual patchwork that somehow functioned as a coherent community. What caught Naruto's attention, however, was the facility overlooking the eastern harbor, a structure combining the architectural elements of a marine headquarters with the distinctive reinforcement techniques of water country military installations. Guards patrolled its perimeter with practiced precision, their uniforms bearing neither marine insignia nor shinobi identification, but the now familiar spiral bisected by line emblem of the harbingers. Too many for direct infiltration, Naruto noted mentally. At least 20 visible security personnel, likely more inside. And something else, Kurama added, his awareness extending through their shared senses. There's an energy signature emanating from that building that resonates with the YamiYami no Mi. Something darkness related. This unexpected development warranted closer investigation. Naruto circled toward the facility's southern exposure, where loading docks extended into the harbor waters. Cargo operations continued despite the late hour, with workers transferring crates from a recently docked vessel into the facility's lower levels. Finding an observation position behind stacked shipping containers, Naruto studied the operation with growing concern. The crates bore no identifying markings, unusual in legitimate shipping, and the workers handled them with the excessive caution reserved for dangerous or volatile contents. More tellingly, each container was secured with both physical locks and what appeared to Sealing tags combining elements of shinobi techniques with unfamiliar symbols Naruto suspected originated from the other world. I need a closer look, he decided, darkness already gathering around. His form as he prepared for shadow transformation. Careful, Kurama cautioned. That energy signature is stronger near the loading area. It might react to your darkness powers. Acknowledging the warning, Naruto proceeded with heightened caution. In shadow form, he flowed between shipping containers, his essence merging with the abundant darkness created by the harbor's nighttime operations. The transformation had become easier with practice, requiring less conscious effort to maintain, a development both promising for his mastery and concerning for its implications about how thoroughly the YamiYami no Mi's power had integrated with his being. As he approached the loading dock, the resonance Kurama had detected intensified, a vibration that affected him not physically but at some fundamental level of his darkness powers. Whatever generated this effect shared properties with the YamiYami no Mi, creating a disorienting sensation like hearing one's own voice echoed back with slight distortion. From his vantage point beneath the loading platform, Naruto observed a particular crate receiving special attention. Unlike the others, this container was significantly smaller, approximately the dimensions of a large chest, and was handled not by ordinary workers but by individuals wearing the distinctive white coats of the Harbinger's scientific division. As they transferred this special cargo, one scientist addressed another with obvious deference. Vice Admiral Conton's experimental substrate has remained stable throughout transport. Preliminary tests indicate 82% compatibility with the extracted essence. Excellent, replied the senior scientist, consulting a data tablet. Prepare the containment chamber for immediate processing. The Vice Admiral wants demonstration-ready results before tomorrow's gathering. The exchange confirmed Conton's presence while raising new questions about this extracted essence and its relationship to the resonance affecting Naruto's darkness powers. Further intelligence gathering became essential. Maintaining shadow form, Naruto followed the special cargo as it was transported into the facility through a secured service entrance. The interior presented unexpected challenges. Bright overhead lighting minimized available shadows, forcing him to navigate carefully through the narrow dark spaces beneath equipment and along wall junctions. The scientists delivered their cargo to a laboratory deep within the facility, where security measures intensified dramatically. Biometric scanners, chakra detection barriers, and what appeared to be sea-stone components in the doorframes created a multi-layered defense system drawing from both worlds' technologies. Unable to penetrate this final security layer without risk of detection, Naruto maintained position in the shadows of a nearby maintenance corridor, extending his enhanced senses to gather whatever information became available. Within the laboratory, activity centered around the newly delivered container. As scientists carefully unsealed it, Naruto caught glimpses of the contents, a viscous black substance that seemed to absorb rather than reflect the laboratory's harsh lighting. More significantly, this substance produced the resonance he had detected, its energy signature unmistakably similar to the YamiYami no Mi's power. Darkness Extraction Batch 7, announced the lead scientist. Voice carrying through the partially open laboratory door. Derived from shadow samples collected at confirmed YamiYami no Mi usage sites. Theoretical stability duration without host medium, 12 hours. Another scientist approached with a separate container, this one transparent, revealing a swirling purple-black energy suspended in some kind of containment field. Essence Cat, Alice prepared according to Vice Admiral Conton's specifications. Derived from Subject 37's successful hybrid transformation. The implications chilled Naruto despite his shadow form's immunity to conventional temperature. The Harbingers had somehow developed methods to extract and contain aspects of devil fruit powers, specifically, elements of the YamiYami no Mi's darkness. Combined with their hybrid enhancement procedures, this suggested an attempt to replicate or distribute devil fruit abilities without the limitations of single-user consumption. Such technology could potentially create armies of enhanced operatives, each granted partial access to powers normally restricted to individual devil fruit users. The strategic implications were profound and deeply concerning. Having gathered critical intelligence, Naruto retreated through the shadow network, navigating the facility's layout until finding an exterior access point where darkness was sufficient to permit rematerialization. Merging in human form behind a maintenance shed, he immediately activated the secure communication device Kasumi had provided. Priority Alpha, he transmitted using the coded protocol they had established. Confirmed Harbinger leadership presence and identified experimental operation involving darkness extraction technology. Immediate consultation required. Within 15 minutes, the team reconvened at their designated rendezvous point, a seemingly abandoned fisherman's shack whose interior had been repurposed with surprisingly sophisticated communication equipment. Kasumi had arrived first, already establishing a secure perimeter with her specialized sensory devices. Report, she instructed as Naruto entered, her fingers moving continuously across multiple communication interfaces. Precise observations only, interpretations secondary. Naruto detailed his findings while Kasumi documented each element, occasionally cross-referencing with existing intelligence. When Black Maria arrived moments later, her typically composed expression showed subtle signs of concern. Your observations confirm my intelligence, she stated, securing the door behind her. The Harbingers have accelerated Project Umbra, their attempt to weaponize devil fruit powers through extraction and synthesis. You knew about this? Naruto questioned, darkness briefly flickering around his hands before he consciously suppressed it. I knew of conceptual research, Maria clarified. Kanton theorized that devil fruit powers exist as discrete energy patterns that could potentially be isolated from their users. However, successful extraction was considered theoretically impossible due to the fruit's integration with the user's biological system. Evidently, theory has advanced to practical application, Kasumi observed, displaying intercepted communication fragments on her data screen. These transmission patterns indicate large-scale preparation for a demonstration event scheduled for tomorrow night. High-value Harbinger assets from multiple regions are converging on this location. A demonstration of what, exactly? Naruto pressed. Most likely the first successful deployment of artificially induced devil fruit abilities. Maria suggested, her expression growing more troubled. If they've managed to stabilize extracted darkness essence and developed a compatible catalyst for non-devil fruit users, they could potentially grant YamiYami no Mi abilities to multiple subjects simultaneously. The implications hung heavily in the cramped space. One YamiYami no Mi user presented significant challenges. An entire squad with similar abilities would be nearly impossible to counter through conventional means. There's something else, Naruto added, recalling the scientists' conversation. He mentioned darkness samples collected from confirmed YamiYami no Mi usage sites. They've been tracking my power signatures since I acquired the fruit. Expected, Kasumi noted with clinical detachment. Your training exercises would have generated substantial darkness energy residuals, especially during early control development phases. Which means they may have engineered their extractio N process specifically to compatibility with your particular expression of the YamiYami no Mi, Maria concluded. The resonance you experienced suggests synchronized energy patterns. Naruto absorbed this with growing unease. So they've been using my power signature as a template for their weapons development. That's why Kanton is personally overseeing this operation. He thinks he's created the means to mass-produce my abilities. A reasonable strategic objective, Kasumi acknowledged. The nullification aspect alone would provide decisive advantage against both shinobi and devil fruit users. Deployed at scale, it could neutralize entire defense systems from either world. The tactical implications were clear. The Harbingers, demonstration needed to be prevented, their research secured or destroyed. And Kanton's operation disrupted before production could advance beyond experimental stages. We need reinforcements, Kasumi determined, already composing an encrypted transmission to headquarters. This facility's security exceeds our team's infiltration capacity, particularly if Kanton has personal security detail present. Reinforcements won't arrive in time, Maria countered. He demonstration is scheduled for tomorrow night, approximately 26 hours from now. The nearest equilibrium collective assets are at minimum 48 hours away, even employing rapid deployment protocols. Naruto considered their options, darkness unconsciously gathering around his fingertips as he concentrated. We don't need to match their numbers, he realized. We just need to access their research and disrupt the demonstration. Both women turned to him with questioning expressions. The YamiYami no Mi's power creates resonance with their extracted darkness, he explained. The Chi connection works both ways. I can sense their artificial darkness, which means I can potentially manipulate it. Maria's eyes widened with understanding. Theoretically sound. As the legitimate user of the fruit, your connection to its power would supersede any artificial replication. Extremely high risk, Kasumi countered, though her tone held consideration rather than outright rejection. Attempting to manipulate unstable extracted essence without understanding its properties could trigger catastrophic energy discharge. Which is precisely why we need more information before attempting disruption, Naruto acknowledged. And I know how to get it. He outlined his developing plan, a targeted infiltration of the harbor district to gather intelligence on arriving Harbinger assets, by identification of key personnel who might provide access to the facility's research data. With proper information, they could formulate a precise strike against the demonstration rather than MPTing a frontal assault against superior numbers. As they refined tactical approaches, a distant explosion shattered the harbor's nighttime ambience. All three rushed outside to witness an enormous plume of fire rising from a ship newly arrived at the main dock. Even from their position several hundred yards away, the distinctive crack of gunfire and clash of combat carried clearly through the night air. That's not part of any Harbinger operation, Maria observed, her keen eyes assessing the developing situation. The vessel under attack bears independent registry markings. Kasumi had activated her specialized optical enhancement device, focusing on the embattled ship. Privateer vessel designation, Tempest's Gambit, she reported. Registry indicates independent operator with periodic contracts to both Water Country and Grand Line affiliated merchants. They're being overwhelmed, Naruto noted, watching as Harbinger forces converged on the outnumbered crew. At least they're TIE attackers against perhaps 10 defenders. Irrelevant to our primary mission, Kasumi assessed coolly. Harbinger attention directed elsewhere provides tactical advantage for our intelligence gathering. Naruto continued observing the one-sided battle, something catching his attention as the ship's defenders rallied around a central figure, a woman whose movements demonstrated exceptional combat prowess despite being outnumbered. She wielded what appeared to be a modified staff that periodically discharged electrical energy, creating space for her crewmates to maintain defensive positions. That fighting style, he murmured, focusing on the woman's distinctive technique. It's not standard marine or pirate combat training. Navigational combat form, Maria identified with evident surprise. Extremely rare specialization from the South Blue tradition. Combines weather prediction abilities with combat application. Before either of his companions could object, Naruto had made his decision. We're helping them. Tactically unsound, Kasumi protested immediately. Engagement exposes our presence and capabilities unnecessarily. Those Harbinger forces were likely assigned to perimeter security, Naruto countered. Drawing them away from the facility creates infiltration opportunities we need. Besides, potential allies with knowledge of local operations would be valuable. Without waiting for consensus, he gathered darkness around his form, preparing for shadow transformation. All engage directly. Kasumi, establish overwatch position with ranged support capacity. Maria, circle behind for extraction support if required. To his mild surprise, neither woman objected further, though Kasumi's expression clearly communicated her professional reservations. Within moments, Naruto had dissolved into shadow form, traveling rapidly through the network of darkness created by the harbor's nighttime environment and the smoke billowing from the embattled ship. He emerged from shadow directly behind the Harbinger line, transitioning to physical form with practiced efficiency. Before the attackers registered his presence, darkness gathered around his hands, forming twin orbs of gravitational distortion. Hey, Naruto called, drawing attention to maximize tactical disruption. Picking on independent operators now. Harbingers must be getting desperate. As multiple attackers turned toward this new threat, Naruto released dual gravity pulses, calibrated for incapacitation rather than lethal force. The effect was immediate and dramatic. 8 Harbinger operatives slammed the dock planking as localized gravity tripled around them, their weapons clattering uselessly as enhanced pressure rendered movement nearly impossible. The sudden reversal created momentary confusion among remaining Harbinger forces. Opportunity the ship's defenders exploited with coordinated precision that suggested professional military training rather than typical privateer organization. At their center, the woman Naruto had observed earlier assessed the changing tactical situation with remarkable speed. Starboard defense, maintain position. She commanded, voice carrying natural authority despite the chaos. Port side, advance with support from our unexpected ally. Her tactical acumen impressed Naruto as she correctly integrated his unexpected presence into her defense strategy without hesitation. More surprising was her immediate identification of his darkness abilities, evidenced by her next command, gravity well deployed portside. Compensate trajectory accordingly. The Privateer crew adjusted their attacks based on her instruction, launching projectiles that curved through Naruto's gravitational fields to strike Harbinger operatives attempting to flank his position. Coordination demonstrated exceptional situational awareness and adaptability. As Naruto engaged a cluster of Harbingers employing hybrid weapons, conventional firearms modified with chakra conductin. Components, he caught glimpses of his temporary allies in action. The crew fought with surprising discipline, suggesting formal training beyond typical merchant marine preparation. Most notably, our captain, for the commanding woman could be nothing else, demonstrated combat abilities that combined elements from both worlds. Her staff techniques incorporated water country forms Naruto recognized from his own training, while her weather manipulation suggested devil fruit or similar abilities from the pirate world. The battle shifted decisively as Kasumi's lightning techniques struck from concealed positions, precisely targeting Harbinger communications equipment and heavy weapons emplacements. Simultaneously, Black Maria's silk constructs appeared at the dock's edge, creating barriers that limited Harbinger reinforcement options. Recognizing their deteriorating position, the Harbinger commander signaled retreat. Tactical withdrawal. Priority assets maintain station, support units disengage. As the majority of attackers fell back, Naruto noted with interest that certain operatives maintained position despite the order, likely the priority assets mentioned, suggesting they had specific objectives beyond the general attack. Thereafter something specific, he realized, darkness flowing around his hands as he prepared another gravity pulse. Or someone, the privateer captain, had evidently reached the same conclusion. Protect the cargo hold, she shouted to her crew. Thereafter our water country shipment. Naruto adjusted his approach, transforming partially into darkness to flow rapidly across the battlefield toward the ship's gangplank. Rematerializing beside the captain, he created shadow clones to engage remaining Harbinger forces while addressing her directly. They're retreating, but they'll regroup quickly, he warned. Whatever you're carrying, they want it badly enough to risk exposing operations in this harbor. The captain studied him with shrewd assessment. Her salt spray dampened hair framing features that combined severity with unexpected elegance. You control darkness, she observed, statement rather than question. YamiYami no MI abilities. Exceptionally rare. I could say the same about your weather techniques, Naruto countered, noting how the air around her seemed to carry electrically charged particles that responded to her movements. Not standard navigator training. A tight smile crossed her wind-chapped lips. Captain Mira Stormborn, she introduced with curt efficiency. And you've just involved yourself in something far more complicated than a simple privateer dispute. I'm counting on it, Naruto replied, as the last Harbinger forces disengaged, disappearing into the smoke-filled harbor district. Because we need information about Harbinger operations in this port, and you clearly have their attention. Captain Myra's expression shifted from wary to calculating. An enemy of the Harbingers is a potential ally, she acknowledged. But discussion requires secure surroundings. Your intervention has bought temporary reprieve, not resolution. My team can help with security, Naruto offered as Kasumi and Black Maria converged on their position, having completed their respective support roles. In exchange for information about what the Harbingers want from your ship. Mira assessed the newcomers with the practiced eye of someone accustomed to evaluating potential threats and allies. Her gaze lingered particularly on Black Maria, recognition flickering across her features. Spider Woman, she noted with cautious neutrality. Your reputation precedes you. Last intelligence placed you within Harbinger command structure, not opposing it. Circumstances evolve, Maria replied smoothly. As does allegiance when faced with emerging facts. This cryptic exchange suggested Captain Mira possessed connections to intelligence networks beyond typical privateer access, another indication that her operation served purposes beyond simple commerce. "We should continue this conversation elsewhere," Kasumi interjected, her sensory device indicating movement patterns consistent with Harbinger reinforcements mobilizing. "This position becomes increasingly exposed with each passing minute." Mira nodded sharply. "My ship remains defensible with reduced crew. The rest of us can retire to more discreet surroundings." She turned to a weathered crewman with lieutenant insignia. "Hajin, maintain deck security. Standard protocol Omega if compromised." The efficiency with which the crew responded to these instructions further convinced Naruto that privateer served as convenient cover for more official operations. As they departed the embattled dock area, moving through back alleys toward what Mira described as a secure location, he studied their new potential ally with growing interest. Captain Mira Stormborn carried herself with the confident authority of someone accustomed to command, yet her awareness of surroundings and adaptive movement patterns suggested formal combat training beyond naval discipline. More intriguingly, the air around her occasionally rippled with barely perceptible distortions, localized weather phenomena responding to her proximity in ways that defied natural explanation. The secure location proved to be a nondescript warehouse several blocks from the harbor, its exterior suggesting abandonment while its interior contained surprisingly sophisticated equipment. Communications arrays combining transponder snail technology with chakra transmission components occupied one corner, while weapons racks displaying armaments from both worlds lined another wall. "Independent Operations Hub," Mira explained, securing the entrance behind them. "Established after the merger to monitor boundary fluctuations along the Water Country Grand Line convergence." "Independent of whom, exactly?" Kasumi inquired, her tone suggesting she already suspected the answer. Mira's smile held little warmth. "Of everyone with agenda beyond stability. Neither world government nor Shinobi Alliance controls this operation. We answer to those who recognize the merger as reality requiring management, not opportunity for exploitation." The Weathervane Network, Black Maria identified, earning a sharp glance from the captain. "I encountered references during my Harbinger infiltration. Independent operators specializing in meteorological navigation of dimensional boundary regions." A simplified description, Mira acknowledged, but functionally accurate. The merger created weather pattern anomalies at convergence points between worlds. Understanding and navigating these phenomena became essential for secure transportation. "Which explains why the Harbingers targeted your ship," Naruto realized. "You transport materials through routes they can't easily monitor or intercept." Among other services, Mira confirmed, activating a secured display terminal, including gathering intelligence on Harbinger activities that impact dimensional stability. "Which brings us to mutual interests." The display showed detailed schematics of the facility Naruto had infiltrated earlier, interior layouts, security protocols, and personnel rotations presented with precision that indicated inside access. Vice Admiral Conton arrived 3 days ago to oversee final preparations for Project Umbra, Mira continued, highlighting specific sections of the facility. "Tomorrow night, he demonstrates the first successful application of extracted devil fruit essence to multiple subjects simultaneously." "You have sources inside the facility," Kasumi observed, professional appreciation evident in her typically reserved expression. "We cultivate information networks at all convergence points," Mira confirmed. "The Harbingers' activities threaten the delicate equilibrium established since the merger. Their forced integration approach would collapse distinct dimensional properties that currently allow both worlds to coexist." This aligned with what Black Maria had previously explained about her Equilibrium Collective's philosophy. "You're working toward the same objective as Maria's organization," Naruto noted. "Similar objectives, different methodologies," Mira clarified. "The Equilibrium Collective operates primarily through official channels and established power structures. The Weathervane Network navigates spaces between recognized authorities. Complementary approaches," Maria observed with diplomatic precision, "which presents opportunity for coordinated response to immediate threat." The pragmatic alliance formed with remarkable efficiency, each party recognizing mutual benefit without requiring perfect alignment of long-term agendas. Captain Myris detailed intelligence NCE on the Harbinger facility complemented their team's specialized infiltration capabilities, while Naruto's YamiYami no Mi powers offered unique counter to the darkness extraction technology at the operations center. As they developed their intervention strategy, Naruto found himself increasingly impressed by Myra's tactical acumen. She possessed comprehensive knowledge of both worlds' military protocols, identifying vulnerability points in Harbinger security that combined elements from marine and shinobi defensive structures. Their hybrid defense system creates gaps neither world's specialists would tolerate, she explained, indicating specific junction points on the facility schematic. Marines prioritize perimeter integrity while shinobi emphasize detection grids. Their combined approach creates blind spots at transition points between methodologies. Exploitable with proper timing, Kasumi agreed, her analytical mind already calculating optimal approaches. Though the Darkness' extraction laboratory maintains independent security protocols, which is why we need additional specialized personnel, Mira determined, activating a communication array. Fortunately, we have resources already positioned within proximity. To Naruto's surprise, the communication connected to a familiar voice, one he hadn't heard since departing Konoha months earlier. Authentication protocol verified, came the professional response. Operative Yamanaka receiving. Ino. Naruto blurted before he could maintain operational discipline. A moment of stunned silence preceded the reply. Naruto, is that actually you? What are you doing with the Weathervane network? Long story involving a devil fruit and darkness powers, he replied, earning exasperated looks from both Kasumi and Maria at his casual disclosure of sensitive information. But more importantly, what are you doing in Typhoon Harbor? Assigned to monitor boundary stability and Harbinger activity in convergence zones, Ino replied, her voice carrying the crisp professionalism she developed since promotion to Konoha's intelligence division. Kakashi-sama established joint operations with independent networks after identifying Harbinger infiltration attempts within the alliance. This revelation confirmed Naruto's suspicions that the Weathervane network maintained connections to official power structures despite Myra's emphasis on independence. More significantly, it demonstrated Konoha's awareness of the broader dimensional conflicts underlying recent events. We need your mind transfer capabilities for a high-priority infiltration, Mira stated, redirecting the conversation to operational parameters. Facility access requirements exceed conventional approaches. Understood, Ino responded without hesitation. Current position allows response within 30 minutes. Sending secure coordinates for rendezvous. As they prepared for Ino's arrival, Naruto found himself processing multiple significant developments simultaneously. The addition of a trusted Konoha ally provided welcome reassurance, while Captain Myra's extensive resources and intelligence networks suggested complexity beyond their initial encounter. Most significantly, the alignment of multiple independent groups against the Harbingers indicated the threat transcended conventional political or military considerations. This conflict invoked the fundamental stability of their merged reality. When Ino arrived precisely 27 minutes later, Naruto barely recognized his childhood friend. Gone was the typical shinobi attire, replaced by clothing that blended elements from both worlds, practical combat gear incorporating design elements from Grand Line fashion. More striking was her changed demeanor, the confident but sometimes impulsive kunoichi had been replaced by a poised intelligence operative whose assessing gaze cataloged every detail of her surroundings. Her surprise at seeing Naruto quickly transformed to professional curiosity as she noted the darkness occasionally manifesting around his hands during moments of concentration. Devil fruit user now? She inquired with raised eyebrow. Intelligence indicated possibilities, but confirmation helps contextual assessment. YamiYami no Mi, he confirmed. Darkness manipulation, gravity control, power nullification. Still adapting to its full implications. Ino's expression shifted to something more familiar, the exasperated affection she'd often displayed during their younger years. Only you would accidentally acquire one of the most dangerous devil fruits in existence. Some things never change, while others change significantly, he countered, gesturing toward her modified appearance and demeanor. Intelligence division suits you. Necessity drives adaptation, she replied with unexpected seriousness. The merger created information gaps traditional shinobi methods couldn't bridge. Learning to navigate both worlds became essential. Their reunion was brief as operational planning resumed, with Ino's specialized knowledge of neural pathways and consciousness transfer adding critical dimensions to their infiltration strategy. Her mind transfer technique offered unprecedented access to secured areas, particularly when combined with Naruto's shadow transportation capabilities. Mind transfer through shadow network creates unique infiltration vector, Kasumi acknowledged. Professional respect evident despite her typically reserved assessment. Target acquisition followed by consciousness transfer allows remote security deactivation without physical presence risks. The expanded team worked through the night developing their approach, each member contributing specialized knowledge to create a comprehensive strategy. By dawn, they had established a multi-phase operation leveraging their combined capabilities. Phase 1 would involve Ino using mind transfer to temporarily control a Harbinger security operative, providing initial access codes and disabling specific detection systems. Phase 2 would deploy Naruto and Black Maria through shadow transportation to secure the darkness extraction laboratory while Kasumi established overwatch position with communication disruption capabilities. Captain Mira and her select crew would create diversionary pressure at strategic points, drawing Harbinger response away from primary objectives. As preparations concluded, Naruto found moment to observe the unexpected team that had formed around this mission. Each member represented different aspects of their merged world, Kasumi with her analytical lightning country precision, Maria with her complex history spanning both Harbinger and Equilibrium operations, Mira with her independent weathervane network connections, and Ino bridging Noah's traditional structures with new intelligence methodologies. Their diversity created complementary capabilities precisely because they approached the same problem from different perspectives, microcosm of what balanced integration between worlds might achieve, contrasting sharply with the Harbinger's forced homogenization approach. An interesting collection of allies, Kurama observed, breaking his unusual silence. Particularly the women. Have you noticed they all possess abilities that complement different aspects of your darkness powers? Naruto hadn't consciously recognized this pattern. But the Nine Tails observation proved accurate upon reflection. Kasumi's lightning techniques could potentially energize darkness, creating light-dark balance. Maria's spider abilities involved manipulation of space and construction, complementing gravitational aspects. Mira's weather control interacted with environmental conditions darkness could exploit, while Ino's mind techniques I'd navigate consciousness through shadow networks. Coincidence? Naruto questioned silently. Perhaps. Kurama replied, though his tone suggested skepticism. Or perhaps the YamiYami no Mi's power naturally attracts complementary energies. Either way, it creates interesting possibilities for combined techniques. This insight presented tactical applications worth exploring, but immediate mission parameters took precedence. As the team moved toward final preparation phase, Captain Mira approached Naruto privately, her expression uncharacteristically hesitant. There's something you should know before we proceed, she stated. Voice lowered to prevent others from overhearing. The cargo the Harbingers targeted on my ship, it's connected to your darkness powers. Naruto's attention sharpened. How so? We were transporting specialized containment equipment developed in water country laboratories, she explained. Technology designed to stabilize dimensional boundaries at convergence points where reality becomes flexible. And this relates to the YamiYami no Mi. How exactly? The equipment employs principles similar to your nullification abilities, creating zones where external forces can't influence contained elements. Mira's gaze intensified. According to our researchers, the YamiYami no Mi doesn't just control darkness, it manipulates the boundaries between defined and undefined states of reality. This description aligned with Naruto's experiences more accurately than previous explanations. His darkness powers didn't merely create absence, they established boundaries between what was and what wasn't, between defined reality and potential nothingness. The Harbingers want this technology to enhance their extraction process, he realized. To create stable boundaries around the artificial darkness they're developing. Mira nodded grimly, which explains their accelerated timeline. With this equipment, they could potentially stabilize extracted darkness indefinitely, removing the 12-hour degradation limit current samples exhibit. The implications elevated already significant threat assessment. Stable artificial darkness would allow the Harbingers to distribute YamiYami no Mi derivatives without time constraints, potentially creating permanent enhanced operatives rather than temporarily empowered assets. We need to adjust our approach, Naruto determined. Darkness unconsciously gathering around his fingertips as he processed this information. Securing the extraction laboratory remains primary objective, but we need to confirm whether the Y have already integrated this containment technology. As he turned to share this development with the team, alarms suddenly blared throughout the warehouse, proximity warnings indicating security breach. Captain Mira rushed to the monitoring station, expression hardening as she assessed incoming data. Harbinger strike team approaching from multiple vectors, she reported, activating defense protocols that sealed external access points. They've tracked us to this location. Impossible, Kasumi countered, checking her sensory equipment. Our counter-detection measures remain active and functional. Unless they're tracking something else, Black Maria suggested, gaze shifting significantly toward Naruto. Something connected to darkness itself. Understanding dawned with chilling clarity. They're not tracking conventional signals, Naruto realized. They're tracking darkness resonance, the same energy signature that allowed me to detect their extraction samples. Connection works both ways, Ino confirmed. Already accessing security feeds. If they've stabilized extraction process sufficiently, they could potentially detect YamiYami no Mi energy patterns across limited ranges. Tactical implications were immediate and severe. If the Harbingers could track Naruto's darkness signature, their carefully planned infiltration approach was compromised before implementation. Worse, it suggested their darkness extraction technology had advanced further than intelligence indicated. Adaptation required, Kasumi stated with characteristic efficiency, already recalculating tactical options. Conventional evasion ineffective against energy signature tracking. Alternative approach necessary, or we use it, Naruto countered, a strategy forming as he embraced rather than resisted the connection. If they can track my darkness, we create darkness they want to follow. Before his companions could question this approach, Naruto created shadow clones, each immediately manifestee. Ing darkness auras of varying intensities. Multiple signature sources, multiple potential targets. Creates confusion while we implement primary mission parameters. Tactical diversion with operational integration, Mira assessed. Immediately grasping the concept, we accelerate timeline, using Harbinger response as cover for primary infiltration. The team pivoted with remarkable efficiency, reorganizing their approach to exploit rather than avoid the tracking capability. Naruto's shadow clones would deploy throughout the harbor district, creating darkness signature patterns to confuse Harbin. Gear tracking systems while the core team executed their infiltration during the resulting chaos. As they prepared for immediate deployment, Naruto became acutely aware of a significant evolution in his relationship with the darkness power. Rather than fighting its influence or treating it as foreign intrusion, he had begun integrating it naturally into his tactical thinking, using its connection to artificial extraction as advantage rather than vulnerability. Your approach to the darkness has changed, Kurama noted with mixture of approval and concern. Less resistance, more integration. Effective, but not without risk. Balance through acceptance, not denial, Naruto responded silently. Just as I learned with your power. The Nine Tails offered no further comment, but Naruto sensed his cautious acknowledgement. Both powers, the fox's chakra and the fruit's darkness, required respect rather than suppression, understanding rather than fear. As the team moved toward their deployment positions, Naruto caught Black Maria studying him with uncharacteristically open curiosity. Your control has evolved, she observed quietly. You're no longer fighting the darkness, you're directing it. Is that significant? He asked, sensing deeper meaning in her assessment. Blackbeard never achieved this balance, she explained. He dominated the darkness through sheer will, forcing it to submit rather than understanding its nature. The difference may prove crucial when confronting artificial extraction. The observation carried implications beyond immediate tactical considerations, suggesting his approach to the YamiYami no Mi might represent something new, perhaps even transformative in understanding devil fruit integration. Before he could explore this further, Captain Mira signaled readiness for deployment. Harbinger forces converging from eastern approaches. Shadow clone diversions active and drawing response. Primary infiltration team deploys in 3 minutes. As final preparations concluded, Naruto found himself at the center of an unexpected alliance. Shinobi, pirate world navigator, former Harbinger operative, and intelligence specialist united against common threat. Their diverse backgrounds and abilities created synergies none could achieve independently, mirror image to the Harbinger's forced integration approach. Darkness gathered around his hands as he prepared for shadow transportation, the power responding more fluidly than ever before. Everyone ready, he confirmed, extending his awareness through the shadow network to identify optimal infiltration paths. Each team member signaled confirmation, position and equipment verified for maximum operational effectiveness. As Harbinger forces converged on their diversionary targets throughout the district, the core team gathered around Naruto, preparing for direct shadow transportation into the heart of the facility. Remember, he cautioned as darkness began enveloping the group, artificial extraction will resonate with my powers. Expect unpredictable interactions once we're inside the laboratory. Unpredictability creates opportunity when properly leveraged, Ino noted with unexpected philosophical insight. Just like merging worlds, with that thought providing strange reassurance, Naruto activated full shadow transformation, drawing his companions into darkness as they began their journey toward confrontation with those who would weaponize the very power now carrying them through shadow itself. The darkness embraced them, and for a moment, suspended between physical forms, Naruto sensed something deeper within the YamiYami no Mi's power. Not mere absence or nullification, but connection to fundamental aspects of reality itself. The darkness didn't simply negate, it contained potential for everything that might emerge from nothing. As they traveled through the shadow network toward their destination, this revelation settled into Naruto's understanding, not as conscious thought but as intuitive recognition. The YamiYami no Mi's true nature transcended simple categories of devil fruit classification. Its darkness wasn't merely elemental, it was primordial, the state from which definition itself emerged. This insight would prove crucial in confronting what waited at their destination: artificial darkness extracted from natural source, fundamental power divorced from its proper context. The implications extended beyond immediate tactical considerations to the very nature of their merged worlds and forces underlying reality itself. Within the darkness that carried them, something shifted, potential awakening to possibility, power recognizing purpose. The YamiYami no Mi responded not merely to Naruto's command but to his understanding, darkness flowing not as serve and but as extension of will aligned with compatible intent. They emerged from shadow into the heart of the Harbinger facility, ready to confront those who would harness darkness without comprehending its true nature, and in that confrontation, discover truths about both the power Naruto now carried and the world it had helped create. Chapter 2 End.